Do you have money to invest in culture? That 20 people, $3.2 million loss. That's just to replace those 20 people. So there's 3 steps you need to do to unlock the potential of your people and really get a good culture. Step number 1 is you're going to define it. And I mean define it to the point where you can actually see it in behaviors. Okay? You can see it showing up, and you know what it looks like in your day-to-day. Define it so clearly. We were working for an energy company. They're an oil and gas energy company. And they had us come in and review another consultant's procedure. Now, this consultant was a big enough consultant to have their own building. And we were just 2 of us, starting out 7 years ago. I read the procedure, and technically it was accurate. But I said, I don't think anybody's going to follow this. And the VP looked at me and said, what do you mean? I said, it doesn't feel like you guys. This doesn't feel like your culture, so no one's going to read it and want to embrace it. He goes, how do you know that? You've been here 2 weeks. These guys have been here 6 months, and this has cost me $76,000 for a 16-page procedure. I said, I just know, I understand culture. It's important to build it into what you do and what you say. So he asked me to fix it. I fixed it within 3 days and got it back to him. He goes, that's it. It resonates. It lands. This feels like us. And so the result is that every single time, we've been consulting for them for now 7 years, nonstop, we're their go-to. Every single time they create a procedure, they embed their culture, their values, their mission. It's all flowing in. It feels like them. And I don't know who in the world decided that procedures had to be boring. Like, why is it when we put our procedure hat on, we become the world's most boring person? Stop it. I know some of you, you're fun. No one said they had to be boring. No one said, like, when's the last time you enjoyed reading a policy and went, yeah, that landed? Never. Okay? It doesn't have to be boring. I don't know why we make it so boring in legalese unless we're trying to put our people to sleep, right? So try to just bring your culture in, bring your personality through, make it enjoyable. Then your people go, hey, I get it, and it lands a little bit better. Live it. There is a major corporation down in the US, and their marketing team was arguing over what lettering font to put on their brand new office wall, and they couldn't decide, so they pulled in the CEO. The CEO looks at them and said, it's not the wall's job to hold our values up. It's not the wall's job to hold our values up. That landed so deep, they decided not to put anything on the wall. They left it blank. 1 week later, an employee took a sticky note and wrote how they showed up with their values. And they stuck it on the blank wall. Another week, another one, and another one, and another one. Soon that wall was filled with sticky notes on how their people lived the values, how they behaved and how they showed up with those values. Much more meaningful than pretty lettering on a wall. You have to live it, and you have to live it when it's hard. In my own company, we had what I call the $10,000 soundbite that bit us in the ass. We had 2 of our leaders argue over a soundbite. One of them wanted it to go ba-ba, and the other wanted it to go ba-ba-ba. That was the argument. It escalated unnecessarily. You know, a reply all email happened, an angry text at 9 o'clock at night, probably after a few drinks happened, and it caused so much turmoil, and the turmoil kept going because it spread throughout the team. Finally, almost 5 days later, they finally got together and talked it out. And they came to me and to Adam, and they apologized and said, we never should have let it get this way. And I said to them, I'm going to ask you to do something really hard, and it's going to hurt. They said, what? I said, I want you to share with the whole team about your dispute, what you should have done better to resolve it, and I'm going to update our dispute resolution policy based off of your feedback on what we need to do as a team to be better. They shared it with the team, and they were able to prove to their whole teams that they could make a mistake they could come to the table, and we supported it. We supported it because leadership is not a position, it is a practice. Leadership is not a position, it is a practice. The last thing you want to do is you want to grow it. You want to grow your culture through everything you're going to do and everything you're going to say. You're going to inspire it time and time again. Because you're going to do it when it's hard. It's easy to do culture when it's fun. But doing it when it's hard, that's the proof. Okay, I'm going to give you guys a culture quadrant here. Now, I pre-drew it for you. You can see my beautiful art. You have performance. People who get good results, high performance, low results. Across here, do they align with your values or don't they? In the top quadrant, this is easy. These are your unicorns. They're happy little unicorns. They're easy. They get the results and they align with your values. They show up the way you want them to. Down here, I call these, this is a mic, by the way. I call these guys the American Idols. Like, they're out on stage, they're giving it a shot. They just need some coaching. They just need a little help, okay? They align with your values, but they're not quite getting the results. Bring these guys up, coach these guys. Anchors, they don't align with your values and they don't get the results. They're gonna stop your ship from going anywhere. They are dragging you down. Get rid of these guys. It is okay to elect people off your bus if they're not going in the same direction. It is okay. They're going to find a place where they fit and light up, and that's great. Anybody guess what this is?
Front or back?
These are your assholes. High performance, they get results, but they do not align with your values, and these guys are toxic. They will destroy your culture so fast. And if you as a leader do not either help them align or get them out, they are going to kill all your unicorns. They absolutely will. We worked with a big engineering firm that did a lot of project management services, and there was a project manager that railroaded his team, but he always got budget and schedule on point. Client loved him. The company's #1 value is we put people first. He got promoted, okay? He got promoted, 5 people left. $800,000 of money walked out the door in turnaround. Just turnaround. That $800,000 didn't go on his performance review. No, his projects were on budget. They destroyed the culture. So, in summary, you have a culture already. Whether you defined it or not, whether you're living it or not, it's there. The question is, do you want to take control of your culture? Do you want to take control and unlock that 65% additional increased profits through productivity, through reduced turnover, through innovation? Culture is a strategy. Start now. Thank you.
Nice.
Thank you. Oh, do you want me to take that thing off? I'll take this off.
That was amazing. I don't love the assholes, personally, but I love the picture. Who here has experienced that in their own business, where they have seen the unicorns? How many of you have seen the unicorns? You have unicorns in your business? Yes. Wonderful. How many of you have had assholes? Those hands went up way faster than the unicorns did. But it's just that, right? When you build that culture, you remember those ones that depleted it. But you also see the ones that are building it with you. All right, we have another speaker coming up, Dr. Laura, who is going to be talking about hybrid work cultures. And I believe that's a topic right now that is very hot because look at what we have just been in and what it is that we're moving into. How many of you guys are remote workers, just out of curiosity? All right. I used to love being in at the office. Loved it. And then when everything happened, I got to settle in at home. Don't know if any of you guys experienced this. And for the first couple weeks, it was like I was climbing the windows, pulling at the drapes, trying to get out. And then it settled in and it was like, oh, this is actually quite nice. And it created a different dynamic. So Dr. Laura is an expert in hybrid work cultures. She is an organizational psychologist, keynote speaker, business leader, author, and podcast host. She's an expert in workplace psychology and career development in Canada with over 2 decades worth of experience. Dr. Laura is a thought leader on the evolution of work and understands the intersections of business and people. Dr. Laura's areas of expertise include leadership, team, culture development, remote and hybrid work success, and developing resiliency through turbulent times. Dr. Laura has founded several psychology practices throughout Canada since 2009, including the Canada Career Counseling, which operates coast to coast, Synthesis Psychology, and Work Evolution, which has been acquired in 2021 by Humans. She runs a podcast, Where Work Meets Life, where she interviews global experts on a variety of topics and thriving organizations, work-life, wellness, and career fulfillment. So help me, everybody, to welcome Dr. Laura.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good morning, everyone. It is so great to be here face-to-face with you all. I'm a huge fan of hybrid and remote, but boy, oh boy, nothing replaces being together again. So, hybrid work is not a new concept. In fact, the term hybrid first came about during the pandemic. But for years, I've been immersed in the topic of working apart from one another. We called it different things than hybrid. We called it distributed work, virtual work, agile work, flex work. We didn't call it hybrid. But I've been immersed in this whole area and working in these ways for my entire career, almost 25 years. And what I know for sure, through my decades of research in organizational psychology and from tracking the data, is that most people want to keep the gift of flexibility that they were given during the pandemic. And organizations that take that away and push people back to the way it was before will lose great people. Hybrid work cultures that are flexible do 3 things. They engage and retain talent by showing people that they're valued and appreciated. Secondly, they help attract top talent. It gives a competitive advantage to have an organization that is known to be flexible. People will leave for more money in return for more flexibility. And number 3, hybrid workplaces that are flexible support mental health and well-being. Choice matters for people in how you consider their lives as human beings. So today I'm going to touch the surface and share some tips and strategies with you on how to create a thriving hybrid work culture, whether you're a small business or whether you're a large enterprise. Okay, let's go. Okay, so I'm going to talk about how being a future of work thought leader and visionary led me to where I am today. I'm going to talk about the great reset that is upon us all, happening all over the place and requires organizations to pivot or not survive. I'm going to talk about mastering hybrid leadership and what are the tricks and tips about doing that as a starting point. So starting with visioning the future of work. So how is it that I've been focused on the future of work for the last 20 years? Well, it was like I had a crystal ball. I had worked on what we called virtual teams in the late 90s. I had my master's degree, I was starting out, and I found myself on virtual teams. I worked across Calgary, Toronto, New York, I worked with Europe. I was often communicating and collaborating from a distance. And I realized there's crappy ways to do this, and there's great ways to do this. There's ways that totally demotivate me from my leader, and there are ways that help me thrive when I'm working apart. And I teleworked early on. I always did a blend of home and office, and I thought, the world needs to head in this direction. It needs to be more flexible. So I decided I would do my PhD research on remote team leadership, which was a new concept back then. I liked being on the cutting edge. This was my lab at the university in Calgary in 2003. We were studying state-of-the-art video conferencing and how teams collaborate, communicate, and how leaders can motivate through different technologies. These were problem-solving teams, and one of my conditions was video conference, and then we compared it to face-to-face and text-based. So if you're communicating just by emails and text, how does that work when you're trying to solve problems and the team dynamics versus video, and how close does video come to approximating face-to-face? So what does this platform remind you of? Zoom! And funny enough, this was 2003. Zoom didn't come about, version 1.1, until 2013. So it was 10 years before its time, which is kind of crazy to think back on. I didn't stop there. I went on to say, how do we increase the adoption of telework? Because I think it's an actual fantastic scenario for human well-being, productivity, cars off the road. How many of you had a lovely commute with no traffic? Nobody. So Transport Canada funded myself and 3 business professors to do a study on how we increase telework adoption and get cars off the roads because of traffic congestion in major cities. So we collected a lot of data and published this book. And my part of it was the human elements, the leaders, the individuals, and what you need to adopt telework, the challenges and the opportunities. This was long before its time, but a lot of the concepts in there still apply today. And one of the concepts was pandemics. If a pandemic happens, this is a really good strategy to be set up for. Here we go. Fast forward 12 years later. What happened? This research ended up being really fun because we said there's certain personality traits that we think make someone thrive working remotely, whereas someone else says, I just can't work very well from home. So we actually collected a ton of data and created the first personality profile of a remote worker, which was profiled in Scientific American magazine in 2016. So that was one of our highlights. But we had so many challenges. We were pioneers. I was like Laura Ingalls on Little House on the Prairie. You know, not me. I was Laura Ingalls, and it felt like one step forward. Yes, Scientific American. One step back. Oh, another organization has hauled people back to the office. Laura, can you talk to the media about Yahoo and Marissa Mayer calling everyone back to the office and constantly saying, why is this happening? Then another benefit, wow, we're at South by Southwest 2 years in a row speaking about this topic because it's so innovative. This is my co-founder of Work Evolution, Dr. Tom O'Neill, and we spoke twice there alongside other innovators like Elon Musk. These are our tickets to see Elon Musk live. Funny enough, I ended up speaking out against his policies around telework when he pulled everyone back to the office, laid off the rest, and I wrote about him in Market Watch. But my Twitter account isn't canceled yet, so that's okay. The Great Reset is all around us. So I run a team of career psychologists since 2009 across the country. And whether it's in Toronto, Calgary, Halifax, Victoria, we're seeing the trends like crazy that people are reevaluating and trying to figure out what's my purpose, who do I want to be, where do I want to live, you know, at all ages. But a percent of people call because they have a toxic leader or a toxic organization, which is why I appreciate so much what Katelyn talked about this morning. It resonated so deeply with me, and I see the human impacts of that. I see the mental health impacts, which is why I've had to grow a team of therapists as well to deal with the challenges of toxic workplaces. So this is a chance to make work better, and hybrid is not a new term. Hybrid is not new. We know a lot about it, and hybrid is one part of a great reset that's needed. Because when a CEO says, Dr. Laura, I don't agree. People work my culture's the best when everyone's together again. And I say, well, you want to go back to the way it was before, but may I remind you, as a psychologist who's dealt with this for decades, work before the pandemic was not all roses and unicorns. It was actually a lot of stress, overload, anxiety. There were exceptions. Of course there were exceptions. I love the exceptions. But I'd say, by and large, work had a lot of improvement. There was a lot of challenges and struggles with workplaces. They weren't always fulfilling and purposeful and healthy places to be. The commute time was soul-sucking for people as the commutes got larger and longer in major cities. And I would say that this pandemic was a reset to say, how can work and life be better? My first podcast episode 3 years ago is called, Why Does It Take a Pandemic to Change the Way We Work and Live? And when I see CEOs pulling all the butts back in the seats, I say, you're losing your opportunity to say, what did we learn from this pandemic? Okay, come on, let's go. Oh, yes, okay. Fun. Okay, so essentially, by pulling all the butts back into seats, you risk losing good people, like I said earlier. And the cost of turnover, like Katelyn said, is huge. The latest data from the Society of Human Resource Management is 6 to 9 months of someone's full-time salary is the cost to replace them. So what's happening is if you pull people back, you're going to get people that resist. And they're going to speak with their feet. They're going to dust off their resume. This is the latest data from Gallup, which said 54% of people said they would leave if the gift of flexibility remote work was taken away. 54%. They may not leave tomorrow, but they'll be looking for jobs. They'll have the intention of turnover, we call it. And I see this happening all over the place, and I see it with Canada Career Counseling's clients saying this, complaining about being pulled back and it's not making any sense, and why do I have to be in there 5 days a week when I come into the office and I'm in a Zoom cage anyways, which is why it's super important to have intentional days in the office, because there's different ways of working here, and hybrid work, remote and in-office, depend on the human being. It depends on you and how you're wired with your personality. It also depends on your home office, your commute distance, your family situation, the job, the nature of the job, the nature of your team. So I say it's about me, but it's also about we. So I'm going to do a call out here for a show of hands. How many of you do your best work remotely and love working remote and would prefer being full-time remote, be happy as ever? Okay, so a handful. Okay, how many of you on the other extreme really missed the office when you couldn't go and love being full-time at the office, the routine, the structure, the human beings around you? Okay, another handful. Okay, how many of you prefer a blend? Some days in the office, some days at home, being able to work when and where you're most effective. And that's what I would expect. Most people, the majority from our research, well before the pandemic, that Scientific American research, etc., preferred hybrid. And we knew this going into the pandemic. We said, we know that most people prefer hybrid. Some people prefer remote, but that's the minority. And some people full-time in office, that's the minority as well. But knowing this, we need to adjust and adapt so it's not a one-size-fits-all. And a lot of leaders have what's called the proximity bias. They say, I'm over here. I'm an in-office lover, so you must be as well. They see the world through their own lens, and they don't see it through your lens. Problem. So essentially, come on, let's go. I'm getting through this. We need leaders to master hybrid leadership. But like Katelyn said, we need to master leadership in general. And I would say that there has been lots of room to improve leadership before the pandemic and now, but mastering hybrid leadership is a key set of skills that leaders need, and they need to get on this ship because the future of work is now. And if they don't learn these skill sets, they're going to call everyone back to the office and lose good people. Okay. So there's a fundamental change in management philosophy needed. We need leaders to move away from command and control, which is leading by presenteeism. I have news for you. Presenteeism is not the same as performance. A butt in the seat does not correlate with productivity. The slackers will slack whether they're on the couch or the cubicle. Trust and flexibility, that's the style of leadership that's results-based. It's motivational, it's inspirational. I trust you, but I'm going to set clear goals, and I'm going to have expectations, and I care about what you produce, and I'm going to support you, but I'm going to hold you accountable. But wherever you get that done, that's not the crux of it. It's about the results that you achieve. So I want to avoid the boomerang effect, because hybrid work is not a new concept, but it does require a strategy. And the boomerang effect is where we give the gift of flexibility and then we pull it back from people. We call all the butts back into the seats, and then what message does that give people? It tells them we don't trust them. It tells them that they hadn't been working hard during the pandemic. And one of my worst pet peeves is, "Oh, are you going to work today?" No, you should never ask someone that. You should say, "Are you working from the office today?" Or "Where are you working from today?" Okay? Work is a verb. It's not a noun. And until we change work to a verb, we are going to continue this struggle with where and when people work effectively. And hybrid work, if it's led poorly, it'll bring everyone back into the office. I can guarantee it. And if it's led well, it will bring the best of both worlds. Flexibility, time to focus, as well as time together for community, collaboration, and connection that we all need as human beings. Okay, and in wrapping up here, come on, let's go. I think I'm just going to wrap up here because my clicker is annoying me. But it's been a pleasure working with you all. We need a hybrid workplace. The case is clear. We must develop hybrid leaders. We must not leave it to chance. It requires development, support, training, and successful hybrid culture needs a strategy. If you leave it to chance and you don't give it love and attention and investment, you are going to fall flat and you're going to lose good people. And who wants to lose good people? I would love to connect with you. Dr. Laura, drlaura.live is my platform, and thank you for being here today. Good job. Thank you. I don't know.
The key word that we keep hearing here is strategy. You notice that? One of those quotes, I'm a quote person. I love hearing quotes, especially those ones that just resonate, is if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. And when it comes to culture, whatever size your company is, whatever size your business is, if you're not creating that plan or that strategy, then you're leaving it to chance, right? Even when we're working from home, when there's lots of distractions. I've got 2 young kids myself, and so during the pandemic, there was a lot of distractions. I don't know if anyone else was there during that time. Yep. Oh, yes. So having that strategy is so vital so that we can manage and not just create success within our work, but also in life. right? And that's by far, to me, the most important, because how many of you here love to work? Okay, I'm glad I'm not alone. I was a little worried there for a moment, not gonna lie. But yeah, so when we're working from home, it's really easy to get caught up in all the fun, that we kind of lose touch with the other things in our lives. So having that strategy is absolutely vital. All right, my friends, we have one more speaker. And you may notice I'm not much of a reader. I don't love reading. I love speaking. Reading is not my strong suit, but these guys have such incredible bios that I need to read them and share them with you. So the next person coming up is Dr. Vincenzo, and he is going to be speaking all about wellness and mental health in the workplace. So Dr. Vincenzo Aliberti, PhD, is an author, keynote speaker, business strategist with 20 plus years of leadership, corporate strategy, organizational effectiveness experience across a variety of industries. He is an author of 6 books. Wow! Like, can I get a clap for that? I've been working on a book for the last 6 years. 6 books, with his most recent one around mental health and wellness, a tool for good life, being published last year. Dr. Aliberti typically gives talks on integrational trauma, social isolation, addictions and recovery, diversity, equity and inclusion, change, resilience, personal and corporate leadership, and mental health and well-being. He is the founder and CEO of the Peak Success Institute, a coaching leadership organization that changes, motivates, and inspires the world one individual at a time. You guys can help me welcome Dr. Vincenzo. Awesome.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, I'll sneak around you.
On December 13, 2003, I was living in Wheaton, Illinois. I was there on a park bench enjoying myself. Everything's pretty cool. I was hammered, drunk, 11:30 at night. And then it happened. I buckled to my knees. And I said, God, today I'm going to live or die. I'm going to live or die. Got up, brushed the snow off. I still remember it. Walked to my home, 1131 North President Street. Took a deep breath and I said, that's it, I'm done, man. No more drinking, I'm done. The backstory to that is that at the age of 7, I found out that my mother was a schizophrenic. Loving mother, she'd do anything for me, man. My father worked 12-hour days, but I was 7 years old. At the age of 10, I remember my father used to have this barrel of wine, Italian Canadians, eh? No stereotype. But he'd take like 3 years to drink it, bring his friends over and whatnot. But at the age of 10, what I would do is, I would have a glass every day. And by the way, at the age of 14, I was an alcoholic already. How many here were alcoholics by the age of 14? My sister. And please, don't make the assumption that people that are homeless are the ones that have substance abuse issues. I worked with CEOs, homeless, and everything else in between. Myself, I was a functional alcoholic. At the age of 17, I had a soccer scholarship to Oakland University, went to the national NCAA finals. Played semi-pro at the age of 17 as well. Got my doctorate in economic geography. I studied mergers and acquisitions and foreign direct investment. I was an academic all-Canadian. I published a book, yada, 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 and I can go on and on and on with all my achievements. But do you know what I thought about myself? This guy's a loser. What an idiot, good for nothing. Just kill yourself. I remember going to Chicago, from 2001 to the day, December 13, 2003. Over there in Chicago, they had these white lines, eh? And the train I would take every single day to downtown Chicago. I used to love being 200 meters away from the Sears Tower. Now it's called something else. And every day I used to hear people jumping on the tracks and dying. For 2 years I wanted to kill myself. Every night I got drunk and passed out at home. I wanted to be that person. I remember 10 times walking to the railway station, this one specific route. And I'm walking, and I'm saying, that's it, man, I'm done, I'm ready. I was focused. When I'm focused, I'm focused. I didn't know I was so hammered that it stopped running at 10 o'clock and I had to go there 11:30 every night. It's the freaking truth. I'm an alcoholic, man. That's not funny, eh? No. And then I started thinking, if there's one thing that I wanted to share with you, what would that be? If you don't take anything away from my talk, this is it. The mental health is a journey and not a destination. Mental health is a journey and not a destination. And now I'm going to talk about 3 things that I've learned as I've been an executive director of a treatment and recovery center. I've been a senior executive working for global organizations and everything else in between. And I want to emphasize the treatment and recovery center. First one, stigma. There we go. See, a lot of people don't know that much about stigma. That statistic, 88%, National Alliance of Health and Illness, 88% of people that have mental health concerns feel stigmatized. You go, but that's lower. Okay, that statistic's a year old. Knock it by half. That's really high. And I said, let's go across the pond. Mental Health Foundation in the UK, 90%. That's high. And what about this? American Psychological Association, 50% of people that have mental health concerns won't approach their employers. Why? They feel they're going to get demoted or fired. Interesting, huh? Even if you cut those statistics in half, they're massive. But that's only the first element. Then there is psychological safety. How many people here, you're all leaders, how many people at your workforce believe that they're psychologically safe? Not many people, man. Not many people. That's scary. Now, Amy Edmondson, she's a doctor at Harvard. She published her dissertation on psychological safety. And she coined this definition: punished or humiliated, but just bringing up ideas and questions. Imagine someone with mental health concerns asking those questions. That's it, I'm not using the... So essentially, with regards to psychological safety, you have low psychological safety, high psychological safety. Low psychological safety is all about no risk-taking, low problem-solving, fear, blame, and shame culture, right? At one end of the spectrum. The other end of the spectrum, it's all about trust, collaboration, innovation, creativity. And of course, you have everything else in between, right? In the organizations, I'm not saying your organization, organizations that you know of, how much high psychological safety? Wow. Low psychological safety. Everything else in between? That's still not enough, man. Come on. Then I thought to myself, what are the benefits of having lower stigma and higher psychological safety? Well, the benefits are increased collaboration, increased productivity, increased effectiveness, corporate effectiveness, and ultimately lead to your bottom line, right? It's that simple. But then I said to myself, you know, this is not good enough. This is not good enough, just having all these stats and everything. And because I worked in the mental health arena a great deal, especially as an executive director of a treatment and recovery center, it opened up the one in Red Deer. I said, okay, I have all this corporate experience and I have all this other experience and everything else in between. I said, what's missing? But before I tell you what's missing, let me share this with you. Has anyone heard of the Wheel of Life?
Yes.
Okay. So different dimensions, the spiritual dimension, career, money and finances, health, and so forth, right? I just finished writing another book, published it just on Monday. It's called Wellness, Timeless Wisdom for Modern Times on the Wheel of Life. It's the interconnectedness of everything, right? And what about the digital side of things? The iPhone, nutrition. I got my 10,000 steps, right? But the beautiful thing about it is that technology is also a wonderful thing. I spoke to a peer support or this specific organization that actually does online peer support grouping, which is phenomenal, right? What's interesting is, now that I mentioned a little bit about the Wheel of Life and the digital side of things, you could have EAP systems, you could have 1-800 numbers. That's good to a certain extent, but you need something more. So what's that third thing? You need someone that knows the landscape. They don't have to be a physician. That's what we do at the Peak Success Institute. We know the landscape. I remember when I was at the Red Deer Dream Center, my last day there, I was there just sitting in my car, just chilling out. And what happened was this guy gave me a call. I said, I don't need, I just need 5 minutes to chill out. 5 minutes, that's it. I met this guy in a peer support group that I attend on a regular basis, and I sponsor people. The organization's anonymous, hint, hint. Come on, man. How long did it take you to click on that? For the love of Pete. I can't say it because it's anonymous. So what happened was that this guy calls me up. He was on cocaine that night. He was hammered, 6'3", 6'4", entrepreneur. He goes, hey, Vinny, how are you, man? By the way, never call me Vinny. Vincenzo, Victor, Paul, but not Vinny. Let's call him Paul. Hey, Paul, how are you? I'm so glad I got a hold of you, man. I'm so glad. I go, why? What is it, man? How can I help you out? He goes, well, I want to say goodbye to you. Goodbye, what for? Well, I'm in the basement here. I got my noose. I'm going to kill myself. I see this all the time, eh? I speak to people, VPs, homeless, and everything else, more than most people, because I get myself in the roots. I go, hey, wait a second, you can't do that, I said to him. I go, why not? Don't you love your dog? He goes, yeah, I love my dog. You love your dog more than yourself, don't you? He goes, yeah, I do. Well, who's going to take care of your dog? I said to him. He goes, you're right. Who's going to take care of my dog? So he goes, so well, how about this? I go, how about you find a place for your dog? In the meantime, I'll be your temporary sponsor. Are you okay with that? He goes, are you sure it won't be an inconvenience? And I'm like, are you kidding me, man? I'm saving your life. So I said, because I know the landscape, the system mapping side of things, I said, listen, how about this? You find a place for that dog. And how about this? I'll call a detox center. This guy's been in detox well over 15 times. Detox is a place where you go to detoxify your body from all the drugs and so forth. 15 times. I said, I'll call a detox place. I got some connections at a recovery center. I'll call a psychologist for you and this and that and the other thing. Based on what he said, I knew where to direct him really quick. The 4 things are what I'm mentioning to you, but there were 6. You need to know the landscape. 1-800 number and an EAP system won't give you that. You need someone to help you with that. So, my mother, God rest her soul, she passed away January 20th, 2018. Loved her dearly. The last 15 years were special, man. She was phenomenal. What about Paul? He's in a treatment center. He's doing great as well. And myself, I want to share with you that I'm in total peace. In total peace. Where I'm making a difference in everyone's life, as well as my family. I invite you to take the action. Just move the needle a little bit to reduce the stigma around mental health, to increase the psychological safety within your organizations as leaders. And last, whether it's the Peak Success Institute, another organization, that's okay. Just get that connector, someone that knows the landscape. And above all, remember that mental health is a journey and not a destination. Thank you.
Well, we're getting chairs up.
Yeah, I'm perspiring otherwise.
How many of you have held part of your journey in because of the idea of a stigma or out of fear? Just out of raise of hands. The first time that I ever shared my story about addiction was actually in a book. Wildest place ever to be the first spot to share that journey because it's permanent and it gets out there. And I remember publishing it and sharing it, and my mother-in-law bought the book. Didn't say a word to me. My sister-in-law, actually just recently, this was like quite a few years ago, and my sister-in-law called me and she goes, I have to tell you something. And I say, okay. She goes, I was sitting down at coffee the other day at Mom's, and she brought up your book. And I'm like, oh, dear Lord. She goes, she was asking me all these questions, like, why would you write that? Why would you share that when nobody else in our family even really knew about that? And she goes, but I realize you wrote it so that you would give me the courage to share my story. And that right there, to me, was the power of moving through that fear of that stigma, right? Being able to share our journey, our experiences, because as human beings, it's that connection that really creates the opportunity for growth. So, what a great topic. How have you guys found the speakers so far? Yeah. Get a big round of applause for them. All right.
All right, everybody, we're in the home stretch. We're going to invite Megan to stay on here.
Yes.
We're going to invite maybe another round of applause for all our speakers. Dr. Laura, Katelyn Bullock, and Dr. Vincenzo. All right. Just a little reminder that right after this, make sure you hang out in the lobby. This is what it's all about, a little bit of networking. Pick up one of these pamphlets before I forget, because I saw them. Great job, Katelyn.
Oh, thank you.
There's a whole bunch of stuff in there. So anyways, yeah, great job.
Yeah, I'll echo that. Thank you so much.
inspire us all to be better leaders. So on that note, I wanted to just follow up with some questions that were burning from some people in the audience that we wanted to add. So first for Dr. Laura, how do you measure hybrid work culture success, and kind of examples of how you know it's working?
That is a great question. You measure it in a few ways. One is, what are your people feeling? How is it working for your people? So you need to have a steady feedback from your people. I'm a big fan of pulse surveys. We've done a lot of that. Climate surveys, but just asking people how it's going and being willing to make adjustments along the way. Another metric of success is, what is your turnover rate? You know, are you retaining great people in your company? And I really feel and have seen that the profitability comes with retaining great people. People equals performance.
Awesome, thank you.
Great job. All right, I got one for Katelyn. And number one, how many and which nickname do you love the best? I call you?
Bella.
Bella? Okay, that's good. I like her rapper one. I call her K-Boo. So, yeah, so if anybody calls her K-Boo, she'll start doing rap stuff. But what's the number one failure you see? And this is one of the questions that were thrown at us from the audience here. What is the number one failure you see in companies that think they have great culture? And I think you touched on that about the wall thing, right? But
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I've walked into so many companies and they walk me through their office and they're like, over here we have our squash court or our basketball court, and here's our foosball table in the kitchen. And like they're always empty and like nobody's using them. Those aren't what makes a good culture. And I think that's what everybody thinks. Oh, we'll put that there and the culture will happen. And the number one failure is belief that you just put something there. No, it's in action from the leaders and from your people. It's reinforcing those behaviors. So I think the failure is that like you just put something there and the culture will happen. You have to actually take action and back it up all the time.
So not pizza parties?
I mean, that's great. It supplements, like, but build off of it. If you like say, hey, we have a great culture, we do a pizza party every once in a while, it'll only go as far as the pizza, but building memories and building connection is so much deeper than pizza. Unless it's Chicago, that's deep dish. You're good.
All right, Dr. Vance. We know you help create these wellness programs. So the question to you is, what is the one simple thing that employers can do to start building psychological safety right away?
Building psychological safety. The very first thing that I realized in my alcoholism is I thought I knew everything when in fact I had blind spots. So the very first thing I would suggest to employers is to increase their awareness of what psychological safety is all about. May I add a couple more?
Absolutely.
Once you have that awareness, I think it's extremely important to develop a culture of communication and how frequently you plan on communicating. Then develop your programs. You may already have existing programs. You may want to add on to those programs accordingly. So that's that. But above all, you have to lead by example. As leaders, if you don't lead by example, forget about it. And I'm not talking about motivation. You have to inspire people. I'll tell you, I played soccer all my life. And people try to go, oh, we got to motivate our employees. Motivate nothing. You have to inspire them. Lead by example. Your leaders, inspire them. But awareness, making sure that you have the actual programs in place, and lead by example. Of course, that communication culture as well.
Can I add one thing? Be on a hunt for toxic leaders and fearlessly address them.
Yes.
Yes.
You need upward feedback. You need to collect upward feedback annually in some way, shape, or form from your people to hear about where the toxic leaders are and to action it, not promote them and give them raises and ignore them and hear them.
Yeah,
That's
really
great.
well said.
Yeah.
You know, I want to maybe just add something to what you were saying about Miranda's question. Was Kyle's question about what's the one thing you can do today to make a change? And I adore my parents, and my parents always just say it starts with hello. Like, say hello to somebody, which is really this whole event, right? Make sure to say just hello. It's pretty simple, right? Everybody say hello. 1, 2, 3.
Hello!
And always say thank you, even if it's not the answer you want to hear. Because now you have the honest feedback, right? So hello and thank you is basically how, unfortunately or fortunately, we've been brought up. And Vincenzo's had the opportunity to meet my family.
Yes.
And they welcomed it, welcomed. We were doing a presentation in Ottawa, and it was hello, thank you, hello, thank you, whatever. And the other thing about culture, I just want to throw this out. This just doesn't happen. These little events. It takes a village of belief and craziness to make this happen, and to think that we're going to change the world. One business transaction at a time. And I had a conversation with my great partner. Well, Greg's a great partner, and Al's not here. I want to thank my partners for putting up with my craziness. And we had a great meeting, if I can share that, with Adam and Katelyn, our great production partners, just as culture. And we said, if it's only us 5 or 6, sorry, I keep forgetting to count myself, in the room, I think we've won. So if we add one more person to our little community, we win plus. And I couldn't think of better partners in business. And Miranda puts up with my madness and everything. And I just think it starts with hello, thank you, and just tolerate each other, because we're all trying to get to the end of the race track as damn fast as we can, right? So I just wanted to share that, and also celebrate. I don't know who else has celebrated birthday, but my good friend Anderson Carvalho, he's back there. Yesterday was his birthday. Couple of quick thanks, Michael and Dave, for putting up that big banner. Really appreciate you guys. And I don't know, any last words?
You're gonna let me have the last word. No, I just wanted to extend a big thank you to all of our speakers again today. And I think you guys can probably all see and hear within today how passionate they all are, and how integrated all 3 conversations have to be, right? We spoke about, from a culture standpoint, you can't have that without clear communication and clear safety to have that communication. And so I challenge everyone in this room to go back and think about little ways, like Dr. Vince said, on how you can make an impact and how you can make that change. And you'd be surprised at the feedback you get when you ask.
Yes.
And so sometimes that's scary as a leader, but I challenge everyone to take something away from today out of one or all 4 of our excellent speakers today and make a difference. And the last thing I'll say is please take the time to have another coffee and mingle. Our sponsors, but everyone else in the room, that's why we're here, is to share stories and communicate, and hopefully take away some new business cards or some new contacts that you haven't already had. So on that note, I know Bruno is going to have a few more things to say, but thank you all for Dr. Laura has just reminded me that there will be a tip sheet coming out by Friday for all of you, so watch for that in your inbox.
From our presentation. Yeah, summary.
Perfect.
I get the last thing. Anything else out there, guys?
No.
No, we're good. Let's go.
Coffee.
Coffee.
Coffee,
Folks, thank you
networking.
very much from the bottom of our hearts. YYC Calgary Business, Enta Solutions, and Megapix. And thanks, Miranda. Always cool to be working with you. And we'll see you guys in the lobby. Thanks, guys.
I started the freaking presentation.